Dear Hadith followers, this video is going to be on the word Sahaba and exploring it a little in the Qur'an. I'm just going to go over some of the ayats that mention the word and we will go from there and see where it leads us to. I'm just doing this because we have some preconceived notions, some false preconceived notions in our heads, and I'm just trying to remove that. So, to my Hadith following friends, dear Hadith followers, this one is for you on the word Sahaba. So, my hadith following brethren, what I want to present to you now is the word Sahaba in the Quran. I'm just going to skim over the subject, not stick to it, but particularly, please, I beg you guys and I beg everyone, open your Qurans and just let Allah explain it to you. I'm just going to skim over the subject so you guys get an understanding and some context of how the word is used. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because when the word Sahaba is mentioned to our traditionalist friends, to our hadith following friends, they take the idea that the word Sahaba actually means that they are good and a good companion, a good friend of the Prophet, someone who did everything the Prophet said, someone who never disrespected the Prophet, someone who never disobeyed the Prophet, a good Muslim. Unfortunately, this idea cannot be further from the truth, because in the Quran, when it mentions secret councils and those that plan behind the Prophet and those that lag behind and those that said with their mouths but not with their didn't feel it with their hearts, and those that were lazy and yada 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 yada, the list goes on and on. These were all also part of the Sahaba as well. So what I'm going to do is present to you guys just the word Sahaba, skim over it through the Quran so you can understand what I'm saying and take heed. So we'll start by Baqarah number 82 and number 282. And I'm not going to read the whole ayat, so I'll just point out the words. So here it says companions of paradise. And then we'll move on to another ayat, which is 586, and it says companions of hellfire. It is by far used as more in the Quran as companions of hellfire than companions of heaven. So what this means is the word Sahaba does not mean good or bad. And what I'm going to explain now with this next ayat is basically what the word Sahaba means. And in the context of the Quran, and I'll give you guys some context, I should say, firstly, of this ayat. What's happening here is the two men have approached Yusuf and they're asking him to interpret, to explain the dreams that they had. And Yusuf responds to them, these two men, in 1241. He responds to them by saying, "O my two companions of the prison, a Sahaba Sijin." Now, what this means is they aren't good and they aren't bad. Yusuf has no idea who they are. However, Yusuf refers to them as Sahaba Sijin, "O my two companions of prison." So, what the word Sahaba actually means, according to the way the Quran uses it, it doesn't mean they're good and it doesn't mean they're bad. It just means they were present at that time. That's it. Present. Not good, not bad, just present. Now, if we continue on, I'll show you guys another ayat as well. 2661, and the reason I'm going to show you this is because it doesn't mean that someone follows the Prophet. Maybe someone might say, oh, but they were following the Prophet. Someone following a Prophet doesn't necessarily mean they were on the right track. And what I want to show you is this ayat where it says 2661. I'll give you guys some context again. What's happening is Firaun has just got wind that the Israelites have left and he's really angry. He is approaching him from behind, and this is where they respond. Then when saw each other the two hosts, so it's the Israelites and Musa seeing Firaun, said the companions of Musa, "Indeed, we are surely to be overtaken." So here the companions of Musa are mentioned. Now what's very, very important to see is the next ayat, which says, he said, referring to Musa, "Nay, indeed with me is my Lord, he will guide me." What's important to see in this ayat is Musa does not include his Sahaba when he responds. He uses the singular, he doesn't say, "Indeed with us is my Lord, he will guide us." He says, "Indeed with me is my Lord, he will guide me." Therefore, this also is applicable to the final prophet. He doesn't, just because they're Sahaba doesn't mean they're guided. He will guide the prophet, absolutely, but guiding us won't happen. Is not guaranteed. So if I'll continue and I'll show you guys the end of this narration as well, so you can understand that they were all saved, because here it says in 26:65, and we saved Musa and who were with him all. So in other words, the Sahaba were saved. It doesn't say that they were good or bad. They were saved, even though Musa mentioned that Allah will guide me, not us, in the singular tense, not the plural. So another ayat to consider, and I just thought of it right now, but another ayat to consider would be Tawbah, okay, and 9:101. And this ayat says, and among those around you of the Bedouins, the Al-Arab, are hypocrites, and also from the people of Medina. They persist in hypocrisy. Not you know them, we know them. We will punish them twice. Then they will be returned to a punishment great. Now, what's very important to see in this ayat is, and among those around you. Around who? Around the Prophet. And among those around the Prophet, if Medina and the Arabs, they persist in hypocrisy. Now, what's important to see is this next bit. Not you know them, we know them. This is so important to remember, because it is saying straight out, the Prophet had absolutely no idea who was good or bad amongst the people of the Arabs and the ones of Medina. He had absolutely no idea. So this brings me to my question to my hadith following brethren. Dear hadith followers, do you have knowledge that the Prophet didn't have, that you can determine the character of someone? That's my question right now. So do you actually, the Prophet here openly cannot tell if someone is good or bad. And it does say in the Qur'an as well that you can't tell if they're good or bad. Only Allah knows. And they do persist in hypocrisy. So do you believe that you have the ability to pass judgment on someone that they were good, even though the Prophet himself didn't have this ability? This is my question to my hadith following friends. Inshallah, you guys can take heed, and I'll continue with the next subject.